Hello, everyone, and welcome to Friends of the Force, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Brad.
And I'm your host, Sarah.
And today on the show, we are starting what we are informally calling Sith September. What is Sith September, you ask? Well, it's the little string of episodes that start in September and go into October because we love planning efficiently here at the here on the podcast.
Things got a little off track, but that's okay.
And what is Sith September about? I just realized Sith September is like kind of a tongue twister, so it's really tough, and I'm apologizing in advance. But we had the 20th anniversary of ROTS this year, Revenge of the Sith, Star Wars Episode 3, whatever you want to call it. And we never really got to formally talk about it in May during its anniversary. We did go see it in theaters, and we had talked a little bit about our experience seeing it in theaters. But Andor was happening, Celebration Japan was happening, we had some High Republic books coming out, so just a lot going on. So we wanted to kind of push some of our episodes off into Sith September. So here we are. So this will kind of go and lead us into October, which is when the Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary novelization comes out as well. So it's perfect timing.
You could almost say that we planned it actually, intentionally, with great specificity to be Sith September that then flows into October because of the novelization annotated version that is coming out. It's as almost as if it was divine planning that it would just be Sith September / October, smiley face. There's nothing off here. So, with the publication of the annotated version being a little later, we're happy to extend our celebrations much into October and maybe even November. Who knows? We could be talking Revenge of the Sith for the rest of the year. Even though we've got another anniversary we will be covering. It's busy out here, but we're really excited to finally be talking about Revenge of the Sith this year and looking at it from some different angles, which was kind of the point of this little informal series, because you and I have talked about Revenge of the Sith before in a huge mega episode we did a handful of years ago that I really remember enjoying when we had that conversation. So I'm glad to be back and talking about it again, but with some more specificity or from different angles. I think this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah. And I think just with that novelization coming back into people's minds in just a month, like that is very exciting because that is just one of the best Star Wars books ever, if not the best Star Wars book ever written by Matthew Stover. So
yeah,
listener, if you haven't checked that book out, get ready. You absolutely should be adding it to your wish list and buying it from your local independent bookstore, because it is not one you want to go your life without reading. And we'll be diving into it more.
And if you have read it and are a member of our Patreon, we do have an episode about the novelization on our Patreon to enjoy. And we will be obviously revisiting it with the annotated version, which I cannot wait to get those annotations in my hands and read all of Matthew Stover's insights on this book. And just like, I had such an incredible time reading it for the first time, so I can't wait to go back. So there's a lot in store with Sith September / October, smiley face.
Yeah. Is it Order October, like Order 66? Sith September, Order October.
September, Order October. That works for me. Let's do it.
Sure.
Yeah. On the fly. Let's roll.
Execute Order October.
Wow, we've got little sayings for both of them. That's how you know it's good. That's how you know it's good, Brad.
We love the alliteration here.
And you cannot stop us. Like us and the alliteration, like that it'll be there until we're dead. And by dead, I mean having done this podcast for 50 years and are in our old age at that point.
Yeah.
Every new series will still be alliteration.
You said you cannot stop us, and I thought of Palpatine and ROTS going, "You cannot stop me. Darth Vader will become more powerful than either of us."
And I was thinking of Twice's "Can't stop me, whoa." Anyway, that wasn't in key, but just we're gonna roll with it.
Of course you were thinking about that.
It's a fun song.
Well, you know what you should be thinking about right now is the Siege of Mandalore, because that is what we're kicking off Sith September with. Because
yes.
Way back in the day,
all the way back,
we were not regularly podcasting at the frequency at which we are now, and we never got to cover season 7 of the Clone Wars when it was on.
we also need to clarify that I'm not a Clone Wars person, so I was not watching it when it came out.
Right. And you're not a Clone Wars person in the sense that you haven't seen every episode start to finish, but you've seen bits and pieces of it that have really piqued your interest. And this specifically is like one of those things.
Yes, I've seen all, like, to be clear, let me put my Clone Wars cred on the table so nobody thinks I'm a fake fan. I am, but like, you can't change minds. Anyway, I've seen all of season 7, this final season. I've seen Mortis, I've seen Fives, I've seen Yoda, I've seen the movie, and I've definitely seen some other stuff. But those are the ones that are the biggest standouts to me.
Hey, the movie is very important because the lore of Stinky. That's right. Rada the Hutt. So when you're sitting in that theater seat for Mando and Grogu, and you see ripped Rada,
see Jeremy Allen White as Rada the Hutt. I can't believe you just reminded me of that again. I wish to forget it. Like, I wish to pretend it doesn't exist.
you might need to bring a personal handheld fan with you. Just start.
Right,
you might be sweating bullets.
Seeing Rada the Hutt's going to be too intense of a situation.
Are Hutts?
Maybe all of us.
Are Hutts back? Are Hutts kind of tuck hair behind ear? Are they?
I know. Who knows? Who knows?
What them tails do? I don't know. We'll see.
Oh my God.
Anyways, Stinky the Hutt coming to a theater near you. But we are So your experience with the Clone Wars. So for me, I was in on the ground level. Saw the movie. I was waking up every Saturday morning to watch the Clone Wars when it was on, growing up, and we went through the whole cancellation, Clone Wars saved with the Netflix season 6, and then that was a weird time. And then obviously season 7 coming back to really wrap up some key arcs, including the Bad Batch to lead into the new series,
right.
and getting more Maul, which now in hindsight, getting Maul Shadow Lord soon, which. We'll talk about that maybe at the end as sort of an outro and what's next for this specific through line and storyline. Can you walk the listeners through the first time you saw the Siege of Mandalore and how I brought you into the circle, the Siege circle of trust?
Yeah. So Siege of Mandalore, or that season originally came out starting on my birthday, and I was like, I don't really care, but I'm happy for everybody who's incredibly excited. I'm hyped for everybody. I love you. Have a happy time, everybody. And so it passed me by a little bit. And then Brad was like, we should just watch it. I don't remember if this is 2020 or 2021, but I was still down in the other office. And so it was before I had kind of moved podcasting up here to where I am now. And so it was in that time. And you were like, Sarah, we should just watch it. We should just watch it. I think you'll like it, sort of a thing. And so I sat at my computer and we were on Zoom and we had, clicking play at the same time and we watched it. And I had the time of my life. I had so much fun watching that arc. And it's so cinematic. We'll talk about it, but it's so cinematic. Maul manspreading, and it's very impactful. It's emotional. It's really good. It's really good. You probably already know this, everybody who's listening. It's really good. But I had just discovered it for the first time. And so, Brad, we've actually been talking about doing a Siege of Mandalore episode for a long time, a really long time. Whenever we're like, what do we do? Maybe we throw a Siege of Mandalore episode in there. And this just ended up being the right moment to talk about it because you were like, it intersects with Rots. And I was like, wait, it does. It does. It does. And then I was watching it and I was like, oh my God. The whole thing, the whole movie, a little bit before, a little bit past it. But oh my God.
Yeah, literally watching even moments from Rots play out, the classic scene with Mace saying, I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. And in this episode of Clone Wars, the last line Yoda says of grave danger, grave care we must take is when it cuts in the movie. And then in the show, we continue to see what's after that. Well, it's Ahsoka joining that meeting. And it kind of just, the first time I saw Siege of Mandalore, blew my mind the way that this so closely intersected with Rots. And I think that's sort of the lens that we'll be looking at it today. Totally. A little bit of just for so long we were wondering where the Clone Wars series would end. And it felt so natural that this was the place. and kind of how Ahsoka's story wrapped up, and why wasn't she in Rots if Anakin had a Padawan? Like, why did we never know about that? And so you kind of answer all those questions throughout the series, and especially in season 7 of like, where was she? What was she doing?
Yeah.
And what held her up?
And what I love about this arc, and like, you know, I'm not super in on all the Ahsoka lore. Like, I don't have her full story. I haven't seen all of it, but obviously I've seen Rebels and Beyond as well. But some of her kind of origin story. But when you watch this arc, it's like, this is such an incredible piece, and it sits alongside Rots, I think, really brilliantly. But also, it's so big and important in its own right. And I think like it's a really worthy story to tell for Ahsoka and for the characters like Rex, and Anakin and Obi-Wan and Maul, you know, and of course Bo-Katan and Mandalore as well. Like, I think this is a really, I've seen that arc with Satine also.
Yeah, that's a killer.
I don't know which
one
one that's called, but
that's a killer one.
It's very upsetting.
It is.
It's very upsetting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it feels like a worthy story to tell, and it feels like it's big enough for Ahsoka, and it's big enough that you like believe that the separation of these characters has always been there because of this. And maybe it's still hard to be like, well, he never mentions Ahsoka and Rots or anything like that, you know, like, he's not thinking about her. He's not thinking about Padme so much. But also, like, I think this does a really brilliant job of filling in the gaps and telling a strong story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the strongest pieces of Star Wars. It really is just Star Wars at its best.
Yeah.
And I would love for any animated project to really like capture this again, this kind of cinematic quality. And all Star Wars animation is great, and I love it all. Because I have a heart for it. Again, I grew up watching these episodes every Saturday morning. It was what kept me satiated after I saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters and it left theaters. And then I never could watch new Star Wars except for this for so long.
Can I tell you what I think is cinematic too, but maybe not in the same arc scale, is the end of season 1 of Resistance. Colossus.
Oh, that is very true. That is very true.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Also, multiple ends in Rebels, I think, have that kind of grandiosity that
yes
is really thrilling. Twilight of the Apprentice. Also, it's like,
yeah. And to be very clear too, like, Star Wars animation has always been great. Like, there have been moments that rival these string of episodes, but I think the way in which these episodes were formatted and presented and kind of hyped up, it felt like a movie. It felt like and I'm still surprised we haven't gotten the fully stitched together, just click play, all 4 parts version of this.
There's got to be a fan out there, but I also want the fan edit that puts this together with Rots, and like, it'd be really crazy to go in between the scenes between the animation and the live action, but it would be really cool because especially that scene you're talking about, like, there's a plot to continue right from there. I think would be really interesting. So yeah, so now guys, I've had the opportunity. I haven't gone back to Siege of Mandalore since I watched it originally, you know, because I was like, I want to talk about it, but I haven't rewatched it. And so I finally rewatched it. I've seen it twice now, guys. And it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. By the way, when are we getting the physical copy of this as well? That still boggles my mind. Is like, I want this in 4K. Exist. I want all the bonus features. I just want to pop it in my player. I want to own it forever.
Physical media, man. Physical media. Let's all 2026. I know we're a little far out from that, guys, but let's all invest 10 more of our dollars. I know money is tight. 10 more of our dollars into physical media in 2026. So you know that you have a thing that you love. No one can take it away from you. Nobody.
But I think we can probably start maybe on that same track. I think there's a couple things we want to talk through today, which is sort of, again, our overall thoughts and kind of how this ties into Rots. I think Maul as a character in this is really fascinating and something to talk through. And then the way in which we get Order 66 through Ahsoka's eyes and sort of that final image of the series and what it really means. I think there's some key components of this arc. But like, I want to ask you, what do you feel makes the Siege of Mandalore from a quality filmmaking perspective feel different than anything else in Star Wars animation?
Okay, so there's a specific moment actually, and I'm gonna see if I can find the moment in my notes, and if not, it's okay. I think it's, I don't remember which episode it's from, but you'll recall the scene. It's when Maul and Ahsoka are face to face, and he's asking her to join him. Join me. We have this plot to take down Sidious. You weren't the person I thought who was going to be here. I had this plot to do this thing, but you showed up instead. But we can band together and still to make a change. And it's so dramatic and crazy. And you go, oh my God, there's something that's right about what he's saying. He's correct in something here. You believe him to a degree, but it's also crazy that Ahsoka would even consider it, right? She takes a beat and you're like, wow. And while you're watching this, you can see the ashes. They're like the ashes that are like floating around their faces and falling to the ground.
Right after that window explodes from the battle that's raging.
Yeah. Yes. And it feels like, wow, we're having a moment. It feels like a capital M moment. And that's what makes it feel cinematic to me. It's that moment specifically where I went, wow.
Yeah, I want to add to that and say I that whole scene also hit different for me on this watch. And I think something clicked with me where I was like, wait, we call this whole arc the Siege of Mandalore, but we barely see the siege. Right. We barely see the battle. The battle is between these two characters on a like philosophical, conversational level, an ideological level of like these two forces, one who is no longer a Jedi, but also is so inextricably tied to a Jedi in the form of Anakin, and then one who is been at Sidious's side and was cast aside and killed by Obi-Wan one time, right? Like there's two outsiders who need something, and maybe they can find it in each other. And the fact that you just hear the battle raging outside, but we're just stuck in this moment, and we do get some glimpses out there to kind of cut up the action, which I think is just a really good editing technique to kind of build that tension and say, okay, we're getting to a point where things are going to explode, so you gotta make a choice very quickly. The way that crescendos is just so good, but in the moment it's always about these two characters and what they're talking about, and it's like the best version of Star Wars when it's just not all about the pew pew, but it really is just about like, what are the words being spoken.
Yeah. Do we want to jump into that, because I remember where it was and I have a note about what they said, or do we want to wait for a little bit? And
I think I have a couple other thoughts just on the arc as a whole.
Put a pin on it.
Yeah, and I think I do want to call out just some of the style of this arc, specifically with like the opening title cards. This was the first time we ever got the Star Wars opening crawl music in the Clone Wars. Ooh. With the Clone Wars and the classic Lucasfilm logo, right? So like there were a lot of those elements that I thought made this feel very special. And also the music. I think Kevin Kiner was just on point. I feel like, echoes of John Williams's Revenge of the Sith score, sometimes very directly copy pasting it, but other times a slight variation on it.
I just think that was really foul of the Kiners, and this is a direct call out. If they want to respond to this, they can. Really foul to do the thing that they did at Victory and Death. Kevin Kiner, I'm talking to you directly, because it just plays the birth of the twins and Padme's destiny, like her funeral music, which is an absolutely brilliant cue to the viewer to tell us exactly where we are in the timeline of the movie.
Yes.
But it was also mean and devastating, emotionally hurt me. And then that music lingers, the Victory and Death song lingers into Ahsoka and Rex before they go and fight Jesse and the clones. And that was mean. That was really mean.
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head. The music is what in our minds keeps us tied to Rots.
Yeah,
telling us where we are in Rots without showing us.
Well, they also weave it in and out in really clever ways, like whether it be Order 66 or the death of Padme, or I think there's like a hologram or something. Like we get shown either the cockpit or the invisible hand or the battle over Coruscant. Like we get a direct nod to that too. And then we get something along the lines of like, well, Anakin's on assignment from the council. He's with Palpatine right now. And you're like, oh,
right, from Obi-Wan. He's like, he killed Dooku.
it.
And you're like, oh. But
yeah,
like speaking of the music, like there is the one moment in episode 3, Shattered, where they're loading Maul in the like Mandalorian cryo chamber kind of thing, and bringing him on board the ship, and they're flying off Mandalore, and they're going to the Star Destroyer, and the music that's playing feels like this very eerie synth kind of music, very much like Padme's ruminations. And in my mind, when I first watched that, I was like, okay, so they're doing this, and at the exact same moment, Anakin is sitting in the Jedi Temple looking out the window, and Padme is looking out her apartment, and there's sense, and it's like, to me, it's just telling me in that moment these two things are happening simultaneously, because right after is when Order 66 happens. So like everything lines up so precisely in a very brilliant way. It just sounded so different from anything, and I really love that signature touch, and to tell us a story within the story just through the music. And also just the animation looks like they really threw a lot of their budget at this one. Things looked very sharp.
And we see that style obviously continue. We see the clarity of projects like Bad Batch too. And this comes, I can't remember when Rebels finished. 2020, 2020, 2019? 2018.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I think. Yeah, it was like right after, or right around Solo.
Ago. Wow. Okay. Holy moly, it's been a while. I need to rewatch Rebels is what's being said here. Yeah, so it's like, a continuation of that style, and we're heading right into the Bad Batch as well. So they've obviously picked on that style and expanded upon it, which we're now once again seeing in Maul Shadow Lord, like keeping the same base style, but including different elements or making it a little bit unique and different in its own way, which I think is neat. As much as I like, a variety of styles, and I really like the noodles of Resistance. I hope they come back in some form, the noodle style. But the style of Clone Wars that has continued into later Clone Wars and other shows, I think it's so synonymous with Star Wars, which is great.
It looks really good too. As somebody again who started really Clone Wars at season 1, and you go back and you watch those early episodes, you're like, holy shit, this does not look at all. It's like you got to get through those first couple seasons, and then you hit like season 4 or 5, and you're like, whoa, it's so much better. And not that the animation was bad, it was a reflection of that time, but it's wild how good they've gotten. So they got the juice.
And they've continued to perfect the style, which I think is cool.
Yeah, totally. So you wanted to talk a little bit about the conversation with Ahsoka and Maul, which I think is the biggest part of this arc. The end of that episode, specifically the showdown on the scaffolding high in the Mandalore sky.
Oh my God.
I always just think of Maul going, "You're all gonna die. You don't know what you're doing." And we've never seen him that panicked ever. Like, he's always one step ahead. He always knows what he's doing. And I think that was the first time Maul has ever truly feared, which is saying a lot for him as somebody who was Sidious's apprentice.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember really thinking that was like absolutely bonkers, cuckoo bananas when I first watched it. Like, I remember being like mind blown so clearly.
Yeah.
But
Sam Witwer, by the way, just a performance of a lifetime. I'm so happy we get more of him.
He's gonna do great. I mean, he always does great works when it comes to his characters. So like I look forward to what he does with Shadow Lord. Okay. So Maul knows what's up. He's very clearly aware of the plan. Even if he doesn't know all the details, he knows all the main players. He knows what's happening. He knows that things are happening now. And he thinks that Anakin is the key, which of course Anakin is the key. Crazy how they got that one right. Shout out Maul. Got some brain cells up there that we're working. So Ahsoka says to bring balance to the Force. And then Maul says to destroy. And what's incredible about both of these perspectives is they're both correct. They're both right. Anakin is the chosen one who's destined to bring balance to the Force. She knows that. That's what Anakin's been told his whole life. And that's where he eventually gets at the end of episode 6. But that's not where we are now. We're at the fall. So here he is about to destroy. in epic proportions. And so Maul says, I was trying to bring Anakin here to Sundari to kill him. To kill him. But you came instead. Come on. Oh, you foiled my plan. But if that had happened, this would have obviously changed everything, right? If Maul had killed Anakin, or Anakin had gone to Sundari instead of going with Palpatine. Even if he didn't kill him, maybe he wouldn't have gotten as close to Palpatine. Maybe this wouldn't have happened, right? There's so many what ifs in that. Ahsoka learns that Anakin is Sidious's Padawan, but she doesn't believe it. She can't fathom it in her mind. Then he says, Maul says, we could have destroyed Sidious, but this is selfish. This is selfish, and this is why Maul is who he is, right? And this is why nobody goes with him or believes him, especially in this moment where everything could have theoretically changed if the story hadn't come out 20 years before this story or 15 years before this story. But what power, so this is my big question, in the what if of it all, if Anakin had come to Sundari, if Maul and Anakin would have faced off, if Maul would have said, I have this plan, we have to do this in order to achieve this goal, then I become Sidious's apprentice again, or I take him down, or whatever the answer is here. What power does Maul have compared to Sidious? What ability does Maul have to do things at the level that Sidious has done throughout his life as Palpatine, right? And I think that he doesn't. He's crafty, he's smart, he's cunning, he's forceful, but I think he would have failed because he doesn't have the connections. He's not likable. And that's why, Palpatine was who he was until he decided to be Sidious, because you had to gain the trust of the masses, and Maul has no ability to do that. Thank you. I'm resting my case. And then he says, well, we're all going to die.
Yeah. I think Maul maybe also thinks that his rage will carry him, right? Like maybe that's the one thing I have that Palpatine doesn't, is I'm the one that's been fighting for scraps and has been tossed aside constantly. I have so much rage and hatred that I can overcome anything. Like again, Sisyphus rolling the boulder to the top of the hill only to keep letting it roll back down, right? That's how Sam Witwer has described Maul many a time. I agree on your point that Maul does have trouble forming alliances. It's like part of the reason why all this drama on Mandalore unfolds over the seasons, is like that power vacancy and him trying to kind of fill that. And then even after season 6, when Sidious takes him prisoner and kills Savage, his brother, he is constantly fighting for some kind of political high ground, or not political high ground, but like political capital, to give him more purpose and more of a leg to stand on in a galaxy that may look down on him.
Like he definitely needs people if he's going to be powerful beyond brute force.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's why he's desperate for Ahsoka's help here.
Right. But also the thing that gets me about this whole conversation and the whole plan is he's right.
And he wants it for the wrong reasons. Like he wants to become, of course
wants it for the wrong, and that's why you can't join him.
Yeah. The rule is the master and the apprentice kills the master, and the cycle continues, right? Like that's all this is. It's his revenge quest to avenge his brother and to be the Sith.
Yeah.
Maul wants the revenge of the Sith to happen. He just wants to be him.
He wants to be the main player.
Right. Justice is merely a construct of the current power base, right? To him, justice is him winning. Right. He wants to be the power base.
I think I was just like, of course, like I shouldn't be so stunned in the sense that this story was written 15 years after the original story. They can genuinely do whatever they want in order to fit all the puzzle pieces together. But it's incredible to me how right he is about the events that are happening, and that his plan isn't a bad one. He says, I want to stop this from happening. Of course, we all have the ability to see the future, so we know that it doesn't happen. But there's this feeling that you're rooting for him a little bit. that you want him to succeed to a degree, because then maybe all the pain and suffering wouldn't have happened, even if other pain and suffering would have happened at his hand. And it's just, I don't know, it's such a compelling thing, because I'm not like a Maul fan. Like I'm not somebody who ride or die for Maul. Like I like Maul's interesting, he's fun, like especially in episode 1, but like I don't find myself kind of following him as a character. And so for me to be so invested in what he's doing in this arc, and like be invested in the story he's trying to tell about the situation, is really thrilling for me. Which also in turn I think makes me excited for Shadow Lord, because I did just do a Google, and the Google said that, and this might be obvious to like literally everybody else, but I needed the reminder, okay, that the show takes place after episode 3 and before Rebels. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I just needed the reminder of when the show is taking place. But it's really exciting to me that this is coming out next year, and we're going to get a continuation of what he's feeling in the aftermath of losing, right? Like losing. So that should be interesting. But also, the new Adam Christopher book is coming out very soon, within a couple of months of us posting this. And that is also Vader in the direct aftermath of episode 3, as he is newly Vader. And so we're going to have these two stories of one guy who won and lost, but another guy who lost entirely, in the direct aftermath of this story. This one right here.
Very exciting.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. It's a good time.
Who would have thought that Sarah would have been like, yes to the Darth Vader story and yes to the Maul story. Let's go.
Listen, we got her. We got her. We got her in for Lord Shadow Lord. No, and
Master of Evil at the same time.
I know. I would never have expected that from you, and I'm very excited for this growth that you're experiencing, because I genuinely am so excited for Maul Shadow Lord. I think it's like one of my most anticipated Star Wars projects that we're aware of. And just again, the animation, I've always just been totally enraptured by Maul and by Sam Witwer's performance of Maul. And I just can't wait to see again, like where does he go when he flies off in that ship at the end of this arc? Like what's next for him, and how does he become involved with Crimson Dawn? You know, there's so much story to mine there. So it'll be really interesting.
Yeah, and can we talk a little bit about like not departing from this Ahsoka and Maul kind of part of the conversation here. I would love to talk a little bit about the performances behind the beautiful animation that we've been talking about, because there's some really interesting stuff here as well. And then I want to talk just a little bit, maybe I should mention it now, the fact that Ahsoka knows Sidious's name and then doesn't say anything to the council about it. Girl.
Right, because she tells Obi-Wan about Sidious, and Obi-Wan's like, well, Dooku told me this one time about there was a guy orchestrating the war from both sides, and the fact that she omits that because, you know, Mace says this is not for civilians. You know, like, get out of here.
Yeah, she's like, and well, screw you.
Yeah, she's like, okay, well, I guess I won't. Which is like a classic trope of like, okay, you were kind of rude to me. Well, now I'm not going to tell you this vital piece of information that could save your lives, you know?
But also he kind of iced her out. Like,
oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, she doesn't owe the Jedi anything. And what happens to her in her arc in season 5, where she gets framed and almost essentially executed or put on trial, like, she has really bad memories of the Jedi at this point.
Yeah, but it's the knowing the hindsight that makes the story, or, you know, knowing the story that makes this part of it so painful. Anyway.
Have you ever watched the Ahsoka arc where she gets put on trial?
I actually don't think that I have. I've seen her leave the Order. I've seen that scene, but I don't know if I watched the whole thing. It's possible, but I'm not 100% sure.
We should. We should watch that, because that's just like a good juicy Jedi are bad piece of storytelling.
I've seen God, all the memories are coming to me as we talk about this. I've seen some of the Padme stuff, and then there's this guy. What's his name? Oh
yeah, the one that like Anakin kind of bullies a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think I know because it's like a
Lux Bonteri.
Yeah, Lux Bonteri. Yeah, there's some drama with him and Anakin at several points.
I got some knowledge up here. I remember things. It's taking me a minute, but we're getting there.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, let's talk about the performances. So again, Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka, always good to see her. Sam Witwer, again, I'm just a big Sam Witwer fan. I'll admit I don't necessarily always agree with a lot of his takes, but I appreciate him as a performer and as a person and the way that he tells stories. Like we saw him in Japan.
He's a crazy storyteller. I would listen to him all day.
Yeah, what was it? The Mads Mikkelsen, Sam Witwer, Manny Jacinto, hosted by Vanessa Marshall panel in Japan. One of the best panels of the weekend.
That was like that wasn't always the panel. Was that like a fill-in panel? I can't remember.
I think it was supposed to be Oscar Isaac. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was like talent that couldn't be there. And then it turned into like maybe the best panel we went to. Like the whole time.
Oscar Isaac would have been great. I've seen him. I've seen one of those with him at New York Comic Con one time. So for me, I was like, no, this is better because I want to see these three talk.
And we just sheared our heads off for Manny.
Yeah, and the way that like Sam works the room, he's such a good storyteller. He's got charisma up the ass. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's so good. I'm so impressed by it, just like seeing him.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is they're like all good storytellers. Like that was a really fun hour. And Vanessa Marshall was a great host. Anyway, we could talk about how great they all are, but
yeah.
But like they did some motion capture, right?
Yeah, the performance elements of this fight, which is Lauren Mary Kim playing Ahsoka and Ray Park playing Maul. And you could definitely see a lot of Maul from episode 1. So I thought that was like pretty seamless. And then Lauren, who has done a lot of other stunt performances as well for Star Wars. She's done Ahsoka in live action, Armorer in the Mandalorian, done some other stuff in Marvel. So she's been around. She's in the industry like in a lot of different places. So it was really cool though to see just the fluidity of this fight. It really felt real. You saw a lot of those little subtleties in the performance as well. So it was really, really cool.
I think it's interesting because like animators will often create reference videos for themselves in the scenes that they're animating and maybe get themselves or a friend and kind of act out the facial motions or the movement so that they can then accurately animate that. But this is definitely like a step up in saying we're going to get professionals who can become these characters to do either the reference or the motion capture and make this fight even more elevated. And I think that's like really neat. I think that adding that element to it is really cool. And you're right. Like you do see Maul from episode 1 and you really see a real strength and fluidity in Ahsoka's movements that feel grounded also within the context of the animation. And so it's just like a really impressive fight too across the scenes.
It also echoed a lot of Empire Strikes Back. And this whole arc in general, with Ahsoka coming to the trap set by Maul, akin to Darth Vader setting a trap for Luke and Bespin. But also there's some like liners in there of Ahsoka. She's being like, you'll find out there's a lot of me to dislike. Kind of like Luke saying there, you'll find out I'm full of surprises, and tossing Maul through the window. Just like, so there's just so many of those little moments. And I know that's totally nostalgia bait, but like, it works on me because it's not like the most obvious nostalgia bait, but if you're a Star Wars fan and you've maybe watched Empire Strikes Back 1,000 times on VHS tape as a kid, speaking from experience, you might notice those things very quickly. The scaffolding scene, again, which,
it's incredible.
Is so incredible because I think what this arc does so well is it feels like a ticking time bomb the whole time. You're like, when is Order 66 going to happen, right? And you feel that sense of urgency and anxiety constantly up until the point that it does. And even afterwards, this one, especially because Maul wants to get out of there and continue with his plan. But the fact that he is so close to getting out and yet too far and falls short, and you then feel that anxiety for him because now he is a part of this nonsense that's going to happen. There's that final shot of Ahsoka looking up through the rafters, knowing like, did I do the right thing?
It's kind of like a horror movie when somebody's walking down the dark hallway and you as the audience know what's on the other side of the door. You know that there's going to be something on the other side of the door and you're yelling at the character, don't go, don't walk down the hallway. Yeah, that's what this feels like. I mean, it feels like it's a car crash in slow motion. It's happening, and that's what makes it devastating in that moment because maybe she's making the wrong choice.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things.
We get to episode Shattered, which is when Order 66 happens. And this was a week, by the way, because this episode came out on May 1st. And then we didn't get the final episode until May 4th, which was a couple days later. So we didn't have to wait the full week.
They really did Order 66 again.
Yeah. They
May
did
4th.
it again. Yeah. But I would love to know, what was your reaction to this scene, because as somebody who is not as close to Ahsoka,
Right.
but is I think you and I both get emotional every time we see Order 66, whether it's Cal Kestis or Rots or Kanan in Bad Batch, whoever it may be. What was it like to kind of see the build up to it with Rex and Ahsoka on the bridge, and then Rex is shaking hands, and I feel like there's just so much emotion in this one.
Yeah, this is actually like one of the scenes I do remember from watching it from the first time, is especially towards the end of the episode where they're like, we got to find her. And then she's like cut a hole through the ceiling. Like she's gone. But it's really devastating because there's so much happening. There's so much happening in this moment. And this is really where the countdown, the ticking clock is like present, right? And then Order 66 and Ahsoka says, I feel like something terrible has happened. And while in the moment she realizes that something has happened with Rex specifically, she has no idea yet of what Anakin has done. And I think that makes it really sad. Something terrible has happened. The Jedi have felt it. All the Force sensitive people have felt it. Maul says he felt it.
Which is wild, by the way, that Maul felt it too. Like, even though he is the dark side.
In his box too. He's in the box at this point.
Right. Which I would assume is like a desensitization chamber for the Force, and to still feel something that profound and dire.
Right, which made me go on like the wild goose chase of like, did every Jedi feel Order 66? And then I like went and looked up Ayla Secura's death on Felucia and like thought about all of some of the other Jedi who didn't stand a chance. And she kind of stops, right? Like, and then all the clones get her right away. But I wonder if that in that moment she felt something too. And then I thought to myself, I really want to go play Battlefront 2 right now. Haven't done that yet, but was thinking about it. But like, that having that realization of both Ahsoka and Maul feeling it, I'm like, oh my God, did every Jedi feel it, or did every Force sensitive person feel it this intensely and know that like something seismic, something fundamental about the fabric of what they understand and know about the Force and themselves and society has shifted irreparably in that moment. But it's especially sad to me because Ahsoka doesn't even have the ability to interrogate the feeling. She goes like, oh, I just feel like something terrible has happened. And Rex is fighting for his life in that moment. And I think that that's like genuinely really important to see. Obviously it goes back to Fives, which you made me go back and watch a key clip from. And then I was like, oh no, that's the saddest thing I've ever re-seen again.
Yeah, because we watched the Fives arc fully before you saw this for the first time way back.
Yeah. You had me do the important pre-reading before that was really emotional.
I think it's so cool though that Fives ended up coming back into the picture so dramatically. The fact that Rex is able to push through somehow kind of speaks to his strength, his mental strength, to just be like, I know what I'm doing is not right, and I have to tell Ahsoka something so she can set it straight, and just trust her to do it. And then you can kind of see the moment he fully gives himself over and he's fully like, we got to find the Jedi. She's somewhere, right? Like he just had that moment where he could fight it off just a little longer and just give her a little bit of information. And I just think that's incredible. It's what makes this incredible is like that bond of friendship between them is what might save Ahsoka's life in the end.
Yeah. And it's just like incredible loyalty that you see right off the bat when she ends up going to them. Right. And the whole it is the 501st, right? Like I'm not going cuckoo bananas.
Informally known as Ahsoka's clone troopers or Ahsoka loyalist troopers.
Right.
Within the 501st. Yes, sorry, correct. But it's 332nd Company.
332nd Company. Got it. Okay, so 332nd Company, when we see that like she sees how loyal they are to her and how much they respect her when they've like painted her markings on their helmets. And that's such an emotional moment too, even though I don't have the backstory of their full relationship. I was like, wow, they really respect her. They really trust her and they're really loyal to her. And so I just think you're right. It speaks to the strength of Rex and Ahsoka's friendship. And it also, I think, just in general, speaks to the strength of Rex's character. Not that any of the clones are at fault for what happened to them and for like the actions they took. Obviously, that was literal programming that was not not their choice, and many of them were loyal to many Jedi and other, their fellow clones and citizens and all that. But like, it speaks to the strength of Rex as a character and what he knows to be right. And I think his knowledge about Fives and what happened there, and not wanting to kill Ahsoka in that moment, realizing that something is wrong, and taking a beat to push it off and figure out what's happening, and then try to relay that. I think it's just like, wow, you if you don't already respect and love Rex, like, you have to by the end of this one.
Well, and he gives that testimonial about Fives, which is what Ahsoka watches, right? And he starts that testimonial with like, I know this is probably going to get, removed from the archive, but I feel a responsibility to record on the record what I saw. And it's this. It's this man who knew something about our inhibitor chips, and we don't know what, but something seemed off, and Ahsoka immediately clocks that and is like, it's the chip. We got to find it. And of course you got Cheap and GG and R7, the three most iconic droids of all time.
Whoa, that's a crazy thing to say, but I would die for Cheap. Cheap is a legend. I love that little guy.
They are three of the most unsung hero. Put them up there with Bodhi Rook.
Oh,
they're the reason.
Right.
They're the reason Ahsoka lives. There's a reason Rex lives, which cascades to so many other things in the Star Wars galaxy. It's crazy. I love when we finally get Rex coming back to his senses and having that moment of reunion with them. But also it's like a moment where, okay, yes, we're reunited and everything's great, but we also have to escape because we're currently being pulled into a planet's gravitational field. So that's not great. I also got to say, on the topic of all the clones having their helmets painted, it also kind of adds to I'm sure the fear that Ahsoka feels that everybody that is chasing her and trying to kill her is wearing her face.
And also they all know who she is. She can't hide.
Yeah.
I think that you mentioned that conversation that Rex and Ahsoka have, and I want to just mention one thing from that before like talking about the gravitational pull of the planet. Is that Rex is like crying at one point. He's kind of having a little bit of a moment, and Ahsoka says he's a good soldier. And I thought that was so devastating, because he knows that it's the end of his brothers, and he knows that it's the end of everything that he's known and his purpose, as a clone. And for Ahsoka to affirm him in that way, and to know that they're about to have to fight Jesse and the battalion and everybody, and people that they know and trust and care for. And it's so sad. But I thought that was such a beautiful little moment there.
Yeah, the bonds of loyalty kind of having to break. And they use the stun gun as much as they can, but Ahsoka says they may be willing to die, but I'm not going to be the one to kill them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good reminder to Rex that like we can only do so much, but we can't stop this ship from crashing. That's the tragedy of Order 66, is like the free will of the clones is stripped away in an instant, right? And
yeah, for
Rex to witness that, to be with his brothers who don't have that choice anymore, and he does, is sort of this feeling of separation, and like he's losing something in his life. And at the same time, there's some dramatic irony because Ahsoka doesn't fully know that she's losing Anakin on the other side of that coin, because she's not fully akin to it, although she might sense it a little bit.
The ship crashing in slow motion over like the entirety of Victory and Death is like the car crash of the galaxy. It is very literal in what it is, but it's also metaphorical for what is happening across the galaxy. Nobody can stop that ship from crashing, but we can do what we have to do in order to save ourselves in this moment and do our very best in this moment of true crisis. And it's such a sad fight as it's all happening. It's so sad because you know they don't want to be fighting, and then you know that they're pushing with everything that they've got to not only not be the ones who kill the clones, but also save themselves in the process. And also Ahsoka flying functionally in this episode is crazy. It's really cool, but the fact that all worked out for them is wild. But yeah, it's a real sad. They really did that, and it was kind of
neat. Yeah. And speaking, you mentioned Victory and Death, right? That's the name of the title track that plays over all of this in the end. And it's the name of the episode, right? And I think this whole kind of montage of Ahsoka, Rex is carrying a shovel, right? So obviously he helped bury all of those clones that they were able to find and put their helmets there as a symbol and as a memorial. And Ahsoka just kind of standing over all of them, and almost in a way, the imagery of it is the same as the imagery from the first episode of this arc, where they're all standing when she opens into the hangar and they're all looking at her, right? And now they're all looking at her, but they're dead, right? And it's this feeling of probably like responsibility in some sense that like, did she lead these soldiers to their death? The fact that she drops her lightsaber, is sort of, I think, emblematic of her leaving behind the life that she knew as a general, as a Jedi, as a Padawan, and she knows that whatever happens next won't be the same, right? And she kind of has to let go of that part of herself to survive.
I think it speaks to a part of herself dying there as well. Like everything has changed, so fundamentally. And who is she without the double sabers? She's gonna find that path on her own. But it's such a sad image, but also I think a beautiful image that they pay tribute to the clones and that they respect them in death, despite how terribly things ended, both in terms of their relationship and that crash. And I think that I think that this scene here at the end is a beautiful tribute to the clones in a way that Rots doesn't really touch. It's about the Jedi in Rots, and there's definitely some sadness when we're on Utapau and we get Order 66 to Cody, and that it's kind of over for him just as much as it is for the Jedi. And kind of just in that moment, in terms of who he was before. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful memorial to the clones as we as Star Wars fans broadly have gotten to know them over the close course of like the Clone Wars and in other stories as well.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point, because it's also like they buried those bodies and they were very specific of which helmets they picked. Those were those clones' helmets, right? Like in Rots, they're all expendable and they just kind of die in the background. Right. But the point of this show of the Clone Wars was to say that every clone has a name, a personality, hopes and dreams and aspirations, and they're all individuals and they're not just bred for one purpose. And then even in death, they still have that respect and that loyalty, and they are still people who fought and lost, and goddamn, the ending is so good of this series. It's like just so heart-wrenching.
Can we talk about the denouement, kind of resolution here scene?
Yeah.
Because we skip some time after Ahsoka leaves her saber, and we see Vader visiting this planet.
Is it Hoth? There's snow.
Hoth? Is it snow?
I don't think it is.
What other snow planets are there? We gotta learn the 12 of them, and then maybe instead of stand planets all the time, we can go to snow planets. Be a little more exciting. Switch it up a little bit, Star Wars. But he visits the wreckage. He sees a helmet, just one. So time has certainly passed. Those memorials don't stand anymore. But he finds her saber. He ignites the blue saber, and he sees the Morai. And I think we had like differing interpretations of what the Morai meant in that moment, which I thought was really interesting. But how did you feel when you saw him ignite the blue saber?
Man, I just gotta say
As
again,
Vader.
like
As Vader.
if you told me in 2008 as a young boy the series would end with Darth Vader, I would have like lost my shit. Which it was just watching this when it aired and being there and seeing the troopers and just hearing that first breath of Vader is just like, it's like the hair on your arms stands up. It's so good. I felt him picking that saber up and lighting it and seeing it's the saber he gave Ahsoka. One, I think she left it there probably also to fake her death, which I think was mentioned in the Ahsoka novel that she faked her death. And so maybe this was a way of doing that. But I think him not only lighting the saber, but taking it, it's like that piece of Anakin is still in there. And it's undeniable. And we even see when he looks up at the Morai, we see his eye through the helmet, which is sort of a parallel to when Ahsoka cuts his helmet open in Rebels, and we do finally see the eye behind the mask, right? So there's that parallel there. But it's just, again, it's undeniable that Anakin Skywalker still lives. No matter how much Vader wants to say he killed him, he's still in there.
Yeah.
There's good in him.
What I thought was really interesting about him igniting the blue saber was that, to me, it spoke to a vision, as you said, like there's still good in him, a vision of his past self. But also, why is he there? Why is he there if not to look for Ahsoka?
Oh, 100%. He wants the closure.
He's lost Obi-Wan. He lost Padme in maybe the biggest defeat of it all. But the missing piece of the story of Rots and then the continuation in Clone Wars is Ahsoka. Is he looking for Ahsoka? And I think this is a scene that so fundamentally confirms that, and it confirms the Anakin in him is looking for Ahsoka. That it was so devastating in that way too, because in that moment he realizes, I think, that he's lost her. Which then makes Twilight of the Apprentice crazy cuckoo bananas. Okay. I did some watching forward. I did some watching back scenes here and there. The Fives scene, Twilight of the Apprentice battle, when he does get his mask slashed, and I'm like, oh. And
yeah, we hear Matt Lanter's voice,
Jedi.
Ahsoka. And it's like Anakin
it's so
blended with Vader. It's so
devastating.
And they did that in the Obi-Wan series too, with like
Obi-Wan.
And
then we flash forward to Obi-Wan, and it's cuckoo bananas there as well. It's really crazy. Really good stuff. But like, to me, when I saw the Morai, and you reminded me of the significance of the Morai, like obviously you wouldn't include it if it wasn't important, but I needed to be reminded of the bird's significance. And to me, the Morai circling there suggested to me that maybe it was guarding the dead. That was how I interpreted the Morai being there. But when I spoke to you, you had a different perspective, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I thought maybe it signified to Vader, no matter what he decided in his mind for closure or whatever he needed to do mentally to like move past that part of himself and put it behind him. To me, I felt like the Morai was signaling, no matter what you decide, Vader, like Ahsoka lives somehow. Maybe not in the physical world, but maybe in some kind of sense, like her spirit will continue beyond in a way that you might not possibly imagine in this moment. But you tell yourself what you need to tell yourself. But here's a reminder of her.
And maybe you'll learn about this kind of metaphorical space beyond time and circumstance where you can kind of visit moments of the past and the future. Interesting. Weird. Yeah. Probably doesn't happen. I don't think that place exists.
Yeah. But it is,
anyway.
Yeah, it is the Morai being there though is like beating a dead horse, for Vader. He's like, okay, well, if I'm deciding Ahsoka is dead and there's the Morai, looking at me kind of almost in judgment in a way too. It's like almost like the Morai flying in the sky. Like, look what you've become.
Yeah. Honestly.
And he's just there. He's just there isolated, He's
alone, like in that really harsh landscape.
Right. Cause like we get that shot from above from like the Morai's POV. He looks like a small man, like a small ant.
Yeah.
You think you're so big? You are tiny. You have broken yourself down to the smallest components. And you're a war machine, and you're no longer Anakin.
is so sad to see how far he falls so quickly.
Yeah. Oh man, Anakin Skywalker is such a tragic story.
Oh, you could have had it all, Anakin. If only you had known. At least you get it in pieces of the past.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Anyway.
I would love to know, with all of the Siege of Mandalore, having seen it now twice, how does it change your perspective on the Clone War in general and what this all means, right? Because like the final image of the series is a shattered clone helmet with Vader's shadow in the visor walking away, right? And we just sit on it, eventually fades, and we just have this final image of the clone helmet in the snow and then fade to black, which I feel like is it's like an exclamation point, which I feel like when it just ended there, I was like, what? I don't know how you kind of see the meaning of that, and maybe like how it speaks to the larger just Revenge of the Sith, everything. But like to me, it kind of just, it was like, what did this war even do?
Right.
You know, it was kind of that moment of just like, what was this all for? It's just dead soldiers, and like how many people died for this war, and in the end, it didn't really matter because the Empire was decided long before.
Yeah, that's what I get from it too. It's like going out not with a bang but with a whimper. And there is a true sadness in that final image. And in the scene before, as you mentioned, like he looks small in this harsh landscape. He looks sad and lonely, and you as a viewer, you kind of, I think, really, when Padme dies and we get the no, that is big and bold and all that jazz. But I think this is almost sadder. He's quiet. There's no fanfare, positive or negative, towards the end here. It's just how it ended. And I think that there is a lot of feeling, what was it all for if I've lost everything in the process? As the feeling coming off of it. I think the first time I saw it, I was a little shocked that was kind of the end. And I think I walked into it in this viewing going, fucked around, found out.
Mm-hmm.
Was it worth it? That's how I felt at the end of that. And I think it's a good period to the end of this story of Vader's, or of Anakin's fall and Vader's rise. Do we have anything else to kind of say? Because I got a couple odds and ends that I would really like to talk about briefly, or slightly more than briefly.
Yeah, let's go into them.
Okay, so I'm sorry that we haven't talked about the Mandalorians very much throughout the Siege of Mandalore, but the reality is they are not the key in the combination, in conjunction with Rots. But I just want to shout out the fact that I don't know. It has been explained to me before, but I do not know the backstory of Mandalore. Saxon. This is a question. Saxon? Question. He's with Maul. Are his guys with Maul? They've kind of betrayed Bo-Katan. And they're hanging out with Maul.
Yeah, I mean Gar
great.
Saxon. Gar Saxon was also in Rebels as well.
Okay, great. Okay.
He lives for he lives for a pretty long time. I remember
his name.
Oh wow! And Gar Saxon was voiced by Ray Stevenson, which I just remembered.
Oh,
who plays who is Baylan Skoll in Ahsoka, and the late Ray Stevenson, unfortunately. So yeah.
Doesn't Favs voice one of these guys too?
Pre Vizsla, who gets executed by Maul.
Who gets, of course, executed by Maul.
Yeah, there's some good Mandalore stuff. Maybe I'll come up with a watch list, and next time we hang out, we can just do a big Mandalore digest, rewatch all the essential Clone Wars Mandalore episodes. They're like the most entertaining. Like as a kid, as a Boba Fett fan growing up, every week there was a Mandalore focus episode. I was like, yes, give it to me. Yum 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 yum.
That's so valid.
More Mandalorians. I was such a boy.
And And man, we do love Satine. Anyway, so I'm sorry that my point being, I'm sorry that I didn't talk about the Mandalorians much. Okay. Next one is a question that I have. And Admiral Yularen, this is the same Yularen that becomes ISB Yularen. Unless there are different Yularens, it would be surprising if it were, but also not novel in the realm of Star Wars. Bail Antilles, Bail Organa, to be clear. But he's talking to Obi-Wan and Anakin, and he says, like, you've got a call from Fulcrum. And I think Anakin says something about Onderon, and then Yularen goes, it's not Saw. Now, does this not compromise or make more difficult the Fulcrum program past the rise of the Empire, past Order 66, if somebody in the Empire is knowledgeable about who are Fulcrum agents? Like, I understand that everything has happened and also everything has like dramatically gone to shit after Order 66 for absolutely everybody, but like, if I were Admiral Yularen and now I become ISB Yularen, I'd be like, so there was this program. If I'm the bad guy now, I'd be like, so there was this program of these guys, and we should look into them because they're probably problematic for us.
So
you know what I'm saying?
I tried going down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, and I believe Yularen is aware of Fulcrum in Rebels.
Okay.
I think the use of the word Fulcrum, I could see the perspective that it probably doesn't compromise them too much, just because if anybody can be Fulcrum, then it doesn't really matter that they're called Fulcrum still.
But Cassian is also like, Fulcrum. This is where I'm headed.
Right, but they don't know that, right? They just know that Fulcrum agents exist. Like, they know that there's a Fulcrum agent inside the Empire somewhere, and it's Callus, right? And they're trying to weed that out. And
shout out to Callus, hot Callus. Amen. God bless.
Like, maybe it helps their cause that they use Fulcrum as opposed to some other name like Axis, like for which is a little bit more obvious. It's like, well, Fulcrum could be anybody. It could be a number of people that are all Fulcrums, right? So it's like harder to pinpoint. It's almost like you're being watched from all sides. And you don't really know which is the true lead, and
I love that.
I don't know. It's really interesting that you asked that though and pinpointed it.
I love that there's Fulcrum and Access, which are like fundamentally kind of like the same thing. They're like a key point, like they mean those words mean the same thing. But no, that question like really stuck out to me. And then when we got to like the third episode and our Star Destroyer, it is a Star Destroyer, is falling from the sky, it was really interesting to me. And obviously we see more of this throughout the Clone Wars, but again, I have not watched all of the Clone Wars, so bear with me. But it's interesting to see the Star Destroyer with Rex and Ahsoka on it, because it speaks to how the Imperial architecture, what we know to be the Imperial architecture, has creeped in and made the transition from Republic to Empire really seamless when they wanted to implement this new structure, because it was already in place in various ways in the Clone Wars as the Republic. And so I really started thinking about that, and I just thought that was really interesting and also jarring and also sad, all of these things, because Nemec says, when there's like 40 atrocities going on, the pace of oppression outstrips our ability to understand it, right? But this is like the opposite of that. It's like that slow creep of we're going to just change one thing here, one thing here. We're going to change, like if you're thinking about a car, we're going to change the headlights to LEDs. We're going to change the buttons to a screen. We're going to put a heads up display on it. You're going to have cameras all around the car, and suddenly you're driving a whole new car. That's no longer just a car, but it's a computer. This is what that feels like a little bit, like the slow creep of, well, we're in a war, so maybe we should build this type of ship and this type of ship and this type of ship. And maybe we should make these uniforms or these uniforms because we're in a war. And we're in a war, maybe we want to have uniforms because we're a united front. And I just thought that was really interesting. That's all. I'm going to step off my soapbox now. Brad's like, Sarah's talked so much this episode. Good Lord.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting because I think it's one of those things where it happens gradually and then all at once.
It's like as we've been talking about this whole episode, like the power of hindsight as a viewer of this, and as a study, like a student of history. It's the same kind of thing. The power of hindsight to note the points in which wrong decisions were made, or that action had a consequence that was so fatal, for catastrophic. And I to me, like, just the Imperial architecture stuck out to me in a way where I was able to pinpoint that, but that is truly the power of hindsight. And I think that, like in our own world, we're seeing all these changes around us. And, when Order 66 happens, all the Jedi, I guess I realize, like, fundamentally, right, realize in their hearts and their minds that it's wrong and have this feeling of being sick to their stomach. But there were 100 things that led up to that. And even if we notice them, it feels like, oh, well, what can you do about that one thing that's far away and over there? It was a piece of paper, now has consequences, or this, that, and the others. Like, I don't know. I just thought that the creep of the Imperial architecture was really compelling in all of this.
Yeah, maybe in hindsight we shouldn't have taken the clone army that was ordered by a Jedi that we haven't seen in multiple decades.
Right, I'm thinking that was like a pretty important inflection point there. When Obi-Wan,
like if you told me like, hey, I got you a pizza, but it was ordered by Sifo Dyas 20 years ago, I'd be like, that pizza's probably moldy.
Yeah, how's it been
I don't
in
know
the
if I want to
freezer?
eat that pizza. Does that pizza have lead poisoning in it?
Right.
I have questions.
Right. No, but like, I think when Obi-Wan was doing visible confusion, he should have visible confusioned harder. Made a different choice there, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe
instead
a
of being
little
like, sure. But yeah, anyway, just there's so many things to think about when we add layers to any of our Star Wars stories. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Star Wars, as we continue to live and be fans of Star Wars and continue to get Star Wars stories, we get these layers that show us different perspectives, that give us a different angle into what is happening, whether it be Andor, whether it be the Siege of Mandalore, whether it be the Mask of Fear book, whether it be, I can't even think of things, Lost Stars, what a legend, or any of these stories that are connected to a point that we already know in the Star Wars galaxy. It just enriches our ability to understand not just the Star Wars story, but what Star Wars is trying to tell us and what Star Wars is trying to show. And think about, the parallels that Star Wars has always had based on George Lucas's vision in our world. And I think that, like, thinking about Star Wars in a multitude of ways and as it can iterate on itself continues to be a valuable pursuit as a Star Wars fan.
Sounds like you got to watch the whole Clone Wars series now.
Sounds like I got to watch the whole Clone Wars series. But maybe I'm also hinting at an upcoming episode about Sith September at the same time.
I would love to watch the Clone Wars with you. There are so many episodes where I just like want to sit there and watch your reactions and be like, what?
My friend.
That was an episode?
My friend Max, back in college, who is a huge Clone Wars fan, made a timeline order release or timeline order watch list for me, and I have to go back and see if I have that document still, because I know I printed it out, so I don't know if it was their document or my document, but I have to find it. So if we have it, then we have it, but if we don't, then I'm gonna have to ask them again.
Might be on the docket in the future, is all I'm saying. There's a couple of must-watch episodes I might drag you into, so prepare yourself.
It's gonna be me. This is how Brad gets me to contract, for another 10 years on this podcast.
Oh boy. I only had 2 odds and ends. One being I just love how the opening scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan in that first episode mirrored both Return of the Jedi and The Last Jedi. I think Return of the Jedi with the obvious, R2 kind of nodding to Anakin and them all kind of like waiting, and the typical like dun, dun, dun. Right. The drum that's building up to the moment. And also Anakin walking out to the Separatists and stalling for time kind of reminded me of Luke facing down the First Order on Crate and just kind of standing in front of this army. I just love that visual parallel there. Also, just a shout out to, I thought it was really cool how we saw the alert of the Chancellor being taken from Coruscant, and that call coming in to their cruiser and being like, Shaak Ti, we lost track of Shaak Ti. And if you watch the micro series, that's where that happened. You're like, oh my God, did they make the micro series canon? is it kind of canon now? Because but we never, it's not officially canon, but like, is it now?
But Mace Windu taking all, I think it was Mace. So yeah, taking all the bolts out of the droid and then the droid falling is maybe like the baddest, most like baller thing that's ever happened in the course of history in Star Wars. So like it has to be canon for that specifically. Was it Mace? I thought it was Mace.
Yeah, it was Mace. And he's also the one to reach out to Grievous when Grievous takes the Chancellor on the ship and like collapse his chest, and then that's why Grievous gets the cough.
I forgot about that. Oh my God, so legendary.
The micro series is so good.
We had a fun time watching that one too. We watched a lot of stuff at that point in time.
But I loved the implication of this, of that moment shouting out to the micro series and being like, oh, okay, it could be canon from a certain point of view. So,
right.
Sarah, I think that just about does it for this episode. I think it was a lot of fun to reflect back on the Siege of Mandalore, and with the ROTS 20th upon us. I think it's still ROTS 20 until the end of the year.
It totally is.
So, we got a couple more fun episodes in the pipeline for Sith September and Order October, informally. We just made that up for fun. It's fine. But we can't wait for all those coming up, and we can't wait to dive back into the ROTS novel soon. So
yeah.
But if you want to hear more from us, follow us on all of our socials, including Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and follow the podcast wherever you get your episodes so that you have them all drop into your feed, and leave a review if you'd be so kind, and let us know if you like the show. And leave a 5-star if you're being so kind. We would love that. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Do it for the Siege of Mandalore.
Do it for the Siege of Mandalore. Thank you to everybody who takes time out of their day to listen to this here podcast. I know I've said that 100 times, and I'll say it 100 more. We're very, very grateful, especially as the world is complicated and bad, and there's a lot of things to put your attention on that are worthy causes of that, and to take a reprieve with us, we appreciate it. Hope you are doing well. Hope you are staying healthy. Hope that you are finding moments of joy and not doom scrolling. One thing I have done as a pro tip, if you will, it's worked for 2 days so far, so that's actually huge for me, is I just removed Facebook, Twitter, and Blue Sky from my home screen. So I only get the notifications for those apps for the people that I have notifications on. And that is the only time I'm allowing myself to access them. And I've been doing pretty good so far on doing that. So if you need help, that's my pro tip. Thank you. I also want to thank our patrons specifically for your continued support as we are living life out here and making Star Wars podcasts. So thank you to Abigail, Andy, Ben, Brian, Cheryl, Clay, David, Emma, Ian, Jennifer, Josephine, Katie, Knights of Ren, Krista, Logan, Lindsay, Matthew, Nicole, Rob, Ruth, Santa, Sky Talkers, and Viglyph. Thank you so much for your support.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all once again for listening. And until next time, may the Force be with you always.